name is Madeline Haas. Anyone can do research. 1 suspect, 12 dead, 70 others injured. However, no amount of research can explain the personal and emotional impact of the 2012 movie theater shooting in Aurora, Colorado. Through multiple perspectives regarding community violence, a personal interview, survivor's guilt, Aurora after the massacre, gun laws and the effect of media in tragic situations, and an additional aspect of the Aurora movie theater shooting can be explored. In an article regarding community violence and its effect on children published by the Child Study Center, community violence is defined as exposure as a witness or through experience to the acts of interpersonal violence perpetrated by the individuals who are not immediately related to the victim. Based on this definition, the Aurora shooting can be classified as community violence. Community violence has been associated with chronic stress and worry, and may have enduring consequences on children's development, resulting in a view that the world is hostile and dangerous, and can also result in violence within their own lives. The Aurora shooting shocked the entire world, forcing us to question even attending a movie. This violence causes us to reconsider everyday actions that shouldn't have to be thought twice about. Wondering if your family will be safe while at the grocery store, or if it's even a good idea to go out at all, are all thoughts that people experience during the days after the Aurora shooting. Psychological symptoms also related to post-traumatic stress disorder develop, such as flashbacks of the trauma. Victims and those within the community oftentimes have difficulty concentrating on the here and now, because their emotional energy is devoted to avoiding the past and fighting the negative memories. Celia's Babylonia was a high school classmate of my friend who worked at Century 16 Theater in Aurora, Colorado, and was working at the movie theater the night of the shooting. Over a recent vacation, I had the opportunity to interview him and ask him about his personal experience with the Aurora shooting. Babylonia was found in a video of the shooting holding the door open for people to frantically leave the theater. When asked why he was so calm and helpful, Babylonia replied, "In a time of struggle and fear, all we can do is be there for each other. The strong help hold up the weak. Through tragic events like these, the community is devastated, but it is also strengthened." While Babylonia's statement implies that there must be strong, caring people within a community, he details how an emotional experience such as the Aurora shooting can be. No one knew what to do at the theater. No one knew what to do when they went home, and no one knew what to do weeks later. You never expect to be in a situation where your life is in danger simply by going to a movie theater. Babylonia explained that he and the other coworkers constantly debated whether or not they could have done something to change what had happened that night. Elizabeth Lando's Surviving with the Guilt of Living explores survivor's guilt and how it affects people. It is very common to feel guilty for living through a traumatic event in which others died and can be an immediate response to a tragedy. At the Aurora shooting, 12 innocent people were killed, and while most victims were in their 20s, a young 8-year-old girl was also killed. Survivor's guilt is oftentimes an expression of grief and loss. The feeling that someone else got hurt because of me is very prevalent. Many who experienced the shooting firsthand questioned why they were killed or why they couldn't have died instead of such a young child. Others feel bad because they switched their seats with a friend last minute and their friends got hurt, but they didn't. Symptoms of survivor's guilt include intrusive thoughts, flashbacks, and nightmares, as well as depression and suicidal feelings as more severe symptoms. People need to know survivor's guilt is very common, but there is nothing that you could have done, and you have to move on with their lives, said Russell Jones, a psychologist at Virginia Tech. The emotional impact of survivor's guilt can cause one to feel as if it was their fault someone close to them died, when in all reality there is nothing they could have done to prevent it. The Gathering. Aurora After the Massacre by Amanda Fortini and Walter Kern explores the emotional impact that the shooting maintains on the community. A movie theater is traditionally thought of as a family environment where you can go and relax. You never imagine that something so tragic can happen. Authors argue that eventually no one is going to want to do anything at all. The safety of yourself and your loved ones constantly comes into question once one experiences an event such as the Aurora shooting. Fortini and Karen suggest that everything becomes a problem. Particularly everything that wasn't a problem before the shooting turned people's attention inward, in situations and settings that they didn't use to warrant attention at all. Possibly the most important question asked regarding the emotional standpoint is whether or not the public will gradually cease to be the public. Even though individual people and families were impacted, the community was also altered in a way that will never be the same. No one knows what the healing is yet, or how we'll recognize when it has happened. In an article published by USNews.com, does the Colorado shooting prove the need for more gun control laws? The author questions the necessity for more gun control laws within the United States. This argument is based on facts extracted from the Aurora movie theater shooting. James Holmes, the man suspected of taking 12 innocent lives and injuring 70 more, had over 6,000 rounds of ammunition, multiple firearms, and explosive booby traps within his apartment. Gun control laws would be ineffective towards homemade explosives such as the ones made and implemented by Holmes. In the situation regarding the Aurora shooting, Holmes constructed the booby trap within his apartment in hopes that a neighbor would set the bomb off, limiting the amount of police and other responders on the scene of the shooting. James Holmes purchased the guns as well as the ammunition legally, and some state that the tragedy is proof that the United States needs tougher gun laws and bans on assault weapons. Stricter gun laws would increase the need for more guns and ammunition on the black market. However, others argue that gun laws infringe upon their Second Amendment rights, and some argue that if others had been carrying their own weapons, they too would have been able to defend against Holmes. There is substantial evidence showing that gun control laws both fail to control guns, but are also counterproductive. More control over guns doesn't create more control over situations such as the Aurora shooting. Finally, Thomas Swell, author of The Colorado Shooting and the Media, published by the National Review, argues that too many people in the media cannot seem to tell the difference between reporting the news and creating propaganda. It appears as if recently media has become an outlet to desensitize violence, causing those around the violence to experience a numb feeling. Society has become so over-mediated that it no longer troubles us to see a dead human body on TV or hear of 12 innocent people being killed at a movie theater. Unveiling the news in real time, as many Colorado and nationwide news stations did, provides a different understanding of what is going on. This synopsis of tragic events instantly plays out to the global public. Raw first-person accounts of tragedies, such as the Aurora shooting, produces a more public and immediate outlet of grieving, especially regarding such public and tragic events. There are people around you to help cope with the loss of a family member or a friend, or even reach out and support others within your community. The media desensitizes the emotional impact of such a tragic event on a community. Although the Aurora shooting affected the nation as a whole, it is important to recognize that an emotional impact also exists within the community and those affected by the shooting, and is often